Welcome, guys. We're doing it. We're doing it hard. We're going in deep. Some would say spheres deep. Others would say balls, depending on how you look at the world. But me, I'm just going in. I just want you guys to bask in the glory that is this new stream starting soon animation render, rather. Jake, you're late, man. You best be on your best behavior. You better be nice to everybody. No cyberbullying. That's my job. Just kidding. We're a positive community, guys, right? Right? Pause. Community pause. Cashy's up in this. Yeah, how nice is that background, Cashy? Lexi, you're watching because the Discord mentioned. That's good. Jake, you didn't bully anyone. Well, you know what? You might say that now, but we're going to have to begin a 2-year, $25 million taxpayer investment special counsel into investigating whether or not Jake cyberbullied. It's going to get real annoying. The media is going to talk about it for 24/7. We're going to be calling Jake a traitor, but I think in the end we might not have enough evidence to get him, but that's okay. We're just happy to have Jake here. And we're also happy to have Venikins here with her $2 donation. She says, "May the buttery goddesses, buttery goodness fill you today, Joel." Oh, I am filled up with that buttery goodness. I'm about to butter everybody up. What do you do on my streams? We so basically if you look at the title there, it kind of gives you a hint at what is expected to be coming, and at least for tomorrow's video. Today we'll be narrating some stories that were experienced by maids and or cleaners throughout, like, I guess, hotels and that sort of thing. They were cleaning up a lot of butter around the hotel room. Vupasaur. I don't think this is porn music. I don't know what porns you're watching. Hopefully none, because this is a Christian Minecraft server. And we won't even be addressing that. I get all my memes from PewDiePie. We're probably gonna let people roll in here, and we'll maybe kick the actual narration, in which we will start to get into some spooky, dooky music. But yeah, all this music is just to butter you guys up, and you can just say whatever you want to say, and I will sit there and watch your words on the screen flutter by my eyes, kind of like the green code from the Matrix, and interpret it as most likely a woman in a red dress. Jake, you can start that genre. I think it would probably go pretty well. Zombie Mama with the 2 says, "Thanks for always being here for us." Absolutely. Thank you guys for being there for me. I have a lot of support in my life right now, and I really appreciate that. James, if you can find me some creepypasta, maybe a reasonably length one, perhaps I could read it for you on stream today. You never know. We've only got about 6 stories we have compiled for this little special, so we gotta have plenty of time, I believe. I can't guarantee any of that, but Mr. Whiteweg with the 2 says, I listen to you every night, legendary voice. Thank you, my good sir. Burger King? Fart lettuce. Also, I saw Chills had a new, well, not new music video, as in like, basically back in February he released another music video, which I don't know why I get excited when he does that, because I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. Fucking, let's get it. Yes, Jake, tonight we were doing some maid stories. But as far as if anybody wants to hear a creepypasta at the end, perhaps one of the mods could, if we come to some sort of consensus, or maybe if somebody who donates requests one or something like that. Nothing too crazy long, I know some of them can be like an hour long, but just something to tantalize the old creepypasta taste buds. I would be more than happy to jot that down and hit it at the end. Alexa, you got free tacos? That's sick. I had I love burritos. Burritos are my favorite. Best horror narrator on YouTube. Love the podcast on Spotify. That's awesome. Yeah, guys, if you guys want to avoid sucking up your data and or battery life on your phone, all the older narrations are compiled into probably about 2 to 3 hour compilations on Spotify and iTunes, and you can find that on there, which actually reminds me that I need to update the podcast for this week. It is Sunday, and I usually get that out by at least the weekend, so thank you for that reminder. Am I in PewDiePie's army? I didn't even know he was starting an army. Who are they taking over? He's a shameless dictator, I hear. Kaylin, thank you for the burrito. I appreciate that. Michelle, that's the only reason your bathroom is getting clean tonight. Oh yeah, if you have you might be able to relate with some of these stories then. If it's maid related, you could pretend you're in the story. Angela Green with the 2 says, your voice best yet. I'm also already buttered up. Nice and buttered up, ready to roll. That's what I like to hear, guys. I haven't done a Sunday stream in a little bit. Been kind of busy, but it's kind of like going back and forth as far as what I was doing tonight, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get a jump start on my Monday tomorrow. Let's get these stories going, and I know for a fact everybody would be jumping at the bit maybe to come hang out, and I know that I love having you guys. 6 Arca, or maybe just Arcanum. It's an interesting name. It's like a sweet Xbox name. With the 5 says, best voice ever, great reading skills, barely messes up ever. Thank you. That's a lot of pressure actually now. I'm gonna have over 1,000 mess ups tonight. And Tiny Green Turtles, welcome back, says, missed the last 2 streams due to migraines. Bring on the butter, good sir. Well, thank you, Green Turtles, for the 5. I was gonna say I hadn't seen your name in a while, but I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad to be streaming more so I can see you guys more often. And hopefully the sultry sounds of my voice may cure those migraines right up. Donovan Muse, hey man, love your stuff, and I saw you retweeted my fan art. I'm glad you liked it. Absolutely, yeah. Anybody who's going to do some fan art, I'm going to show some love to. That's fantastic stuff. Also, you know what I need to do is the individual that has done this background animation, like, he's so talented. I mean, look at that thing. I don't know. I mean, just in such a short period of time, you know, created like a 3D render of an astronaut in a spacesuit, and then added this CGI animation. It just looks so awesome. But if you guys, you know, he's kind of up and coming with his work. He's from like the, I believe the Norwegian or wherever the Kroner is from. I'm not sure. I forget. Oh yeah, a Norwegian boy. He is at Ranger Reeb, which is Ranger R-A-N-G-E-R Reeb R-E-E-B on Twitter, and his work is amazing. So I'm really excited to keep working with him. You might see some more of his work as far as like a new, you know, continuing to add sort of new intros and that kind of thing. So that should be sick. Cashy with the 14 Canadian maple syrup drenched doll hairs says, bless us in Discord more often, please. We're lost without you, rip. I'm sorry. I hope you guys aren't tearing each other's throats apart like Lord of the Flies in there. Thank you, Cashy. This is very generous of you. I appreciate it. Cashy recently had a birthday. I hope 28 is treating you well. I hope life is treating everyone well right now. Oopasaur with the 20 crones. Join my army of filthy burrito. PewDiePie is in. Oh my gosh, PewDiePie. Dude, you know what? I'm sick of PewDiePie subscribing to PewDiePie. It's time for PewDiePie to subscribe to us. Am I right, guys? Arcanum with the $2 says it is my Xbox name. That's awesome. I was gonna say, I was like, I know a gamer when I see it. Gamers rise up. Eric Elizabeth with the 5 says, have you ever thought about narrating unsolved mysteries and murders? I have. I definitely have done that. I have struggled with the whole, I guess, business aspect of it, as far as, efficiently finding someone who can, write scripts, research and write scripts. Looking for a person like that who is professional, reliable. A lot of people do that, but sometimes it's like, and I think a lot of people are very kind and fun, but finding someone that's professional, reliable, and affordable, obviously, as far as writing scripts, because I don't really have a lot of time to do it myself. And then also editing. I have a friend of mine that I definitely would put kind of like first on my list for editing, but it sometimes can be kind of difficult. And then the fact that I've had, sort of had so much success with the narration aspect and the True Scary Stories, and everybody sending in their stories and that kind of thing, it's sometimes hard to find like motivation to change up the formula, you know what I mean? Though I really would like to, just to sort of like have an expanded category of stories and the ability to reach more people. Kaylin, we could start our own army, or we could start our very own cult. We would be in the background while they all destroy themselves, and we just cover ourselves in butter. I very much enjoy Creed from The Office's quote where he's like, yeah, I've been in a cult. I've led one, and I've been a follower. It's like, you have more money, or you have more fun as a follower, but you make more money as a leader. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, honestly, if there's anybody out there that's would earnestly, You know what I mean? Like you have confidence in yourself as a researcher and writer, and because I really like you know, the ideas of channels like Nightmare Expo. He's very talented writer, narrator, video editor. I don't know if, you know, maybe he has a team of people, but I think he does most of his stuff by himself, which is very impressive. Same with Rainbot, and I'm sure a myriad of other individuals. I've always thought about trying to break into something like that, but it's just, yeah, it's tough trying to really make that stretch. But yeah, if you guys feel that you know, qualify to that degree as far as your familiarity with like internet anomalies or new things that are going on, because a lot of theirs sort of revolves around like sort of sometimes like creepy drama, I guess, you know what I mean? Like creepy drama alert, no. But basically that's kind of what I would be going for, like stuff that's like, I don't know. Honestly, I'd be open to really anything, you know, whatever it may be. I just, if you have something that you guys would want to submit, definitely hit me up at let's read submissions@gmail.com or join the Discord, guys. Starting to get a big following in there, and you may or may not just see my face. Eric Elizabeth, the IRS took my money, but I have enough money to spend on tattoos. I don't believe his sob story. Who are we talking about? 'Cause I am tattoo free and happy, my friend. No needles going on my body. Not that it's a terrible thing, but to be honest, I just have not thought of any good tattoo ideas to this point. The only one I can think of is the one that I should put, and most likely may or may not have, on my lower back, that says, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." It's gonna be like my dad joke forever. There he is, Robin Mikkelsen with the 50 krones. Or Norwegian, yes. Thank you for the shout out, man. Made my day. I'm from Norway. Okay. Yes, Norway. Confirmed. Yeah, Robin Mikkelsen, hit up his YouTube channel. Thank you, Robin. I mean, look at that thing. That's beautiful, and I hope you're getting to view it in its most perfected form right here. But it's truly amazing. $880 selfies in the Discord. We're getting close, guys. You guys might have to start thinking of what the next stipulation for I don't know, our next milestone of selfies in there. I'll have to do a Alex Jones before and after workout reveal, where I'm not any skinnier, I'm just redder. If I could learn another language, what would you learn? Probably Spanish, I guess. Makes the most sense based on where I'm at. Erica says, I was talking about Rob Dyke / Gavigan. I've never heard of Gavigan before. But yeah, Rob Dyke, I haven't seen his video as far as the IRS goes, but you gotta be careful with that stuff. You gotta, you know, the unfortunate part about YouTube is that a lot of your income is sort of processed as like you're a independent contractor essentially. So as far as taxes come, you know, you gotta be completely on top of your game there, and it's tax season for me right now, so I'm getting that all figured out. But the last thing I want is the long wiener of the law coming down on me through the IRS. So I ain't messing with that, bro. They're like the mafia. Anyways, Devin De La Cruz with the 5 says, love your channel. It gets me through my long day at work. Thank you, Devin. I'm glad I can help. I'm glad I can help you guys with this. This has been a good time. Rob has changed his last name to Gavigan a while ago. That is weird. Did he take his wife's name? I'm confused why that would be Oh yeah, he legitimately changed. Oh. I don't know, dude. I know. Well, that's weird. I guess I haven't heard the reasoning for that. He claims the IRS took all of his money, but he constantly has new tattoos, so I don't... Well, who knows? Maybe the acquisition of those tattoos were prior to the IRS, but I doubt that. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you don't want to catch up to you there, because the IRS is... They'll send people to your door. Really cool thing we got going on here. It's almost like the tax collectors of olden Yar. Can you imagine being one of them? Alright guys. You know what time it is. It's spooky time. Even though I would love to keep staring at this beautiful looping video of the stream starting soon, we're gonna have to navigate ourselves over to the subreddit, where if you have a story, you can submit them to reddit.com/letsreadofficial. Oh yeah. And that's located up yonder here. I don't even know if you can see the mouse, to be honest, but also be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, located above. We got to get to 10K. That should be a bigger goal. Everybody wants the selfies. We got to get some Instagram followers. So that whenever I stream or anything like that, or post a video, I can just like hyperlink that stuff on the stories, because that would be dope AF. Oh, YouTube, because his last name was Dyke, YouTube deemed his name offensive and not ad friendly or whatever, and he couldn't get sponsors because of his last name. That is insane. That's actually insane. That is so weird. Death the Kid. Well, thanks for popping in at least. You see me advertising my other social media platforms, you feel used. Well, be sure to hit that follow button. You got baited hard, Tammy. I'm sorry. But we're about to kick off some stories here, so at least that's a little bit of a consolation, right? Am I right, guys? Am I right? Some scary maid cleaner stories. Changed it to a family name. That's, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, that's, man. Poor Rob, he's had a tough go out of it here, I feel like, and I hope he's doing well, though. I'll see you, Vupasaur. Guten Abend. Do I have a Chili's? Do I have a Chili's? Oh, we used to have a Chili's. The Chili's got shut down, just wasn't bringing the bongos in, you know what I mean? Alright guys, let's kick this off hardcore. Here in my state, law enforcement agencies have a department to clean crime scenes after the victim has been removed. Therefore, my boss, seeing a gap in the industry, started the company I work for about 15 years ago in order to provide that service. Regardless of whether we are hired by a family member to clean up after a death or by a law enforcement agency to remove signs of a violent car accident from the public view, we have always done our best to erase any sign of violence from that particular scene. I recently had an extremely unsettling experience at the... I'm trying to think. I really don't want to use the word suicide in a video. I know that sounds a little censorship-esque, but unfortunately, in a similar fashion to what Rob is dealing with his last name, sometimes the metadata that's picked up by the sort of closed captioning saying the word suicide doesn't get you much further. Welcome to Chili's. I could just say that. We had a suicide in Chili's. Alright, regardless of whether we are hired by a family member to clean up after... Oh wait, I already said that. I recently had an extremely unsettling experience at the scene of a suicide that I'd like to share with the others here in this. Arcanum, Noom, with a 5 says, you help me sleep on sleepless nights. I am incredibly grateful. Long form rules. Thank you, Arca. I appreciate that. I'm glad. I'm honestly really glad. I recently, and this sounds kind of funny, but I actually recently listened to myself. It's weird. I was listening to my recent ghost video, and I normally don't listen to myself, like I just kind of avoid it, but it actually made me feel kind of uncomfortable as I laid there in bed. But I did fall asleep pretty quickly, so there must be some sort of like, maybe some sort of frequency I don't even realize that's coming out of my mouth and gets translated in the through the computer screen. Venikins with the 2 says, you know me, let's read. Need my Pradeep Kitty update. He currently, so I have a backpack that I take to the gym, and he's really funny. He loves that backpack. Like, I'll just lay it on my bed, like face down, and he just like instinctively just goes right over to it, and that becomes like his cat bed while he's in my that becomes his cat bed while he lays there. And so he currently is laying down on top of my backpack, having a snooze for the probably 20th hour straight thus far. Arca Noom with the 2 again, soothing as hell. Thank you, Arca. Does hearing my own voice make you cringe? I think hearing my own like talking voice, like right now, sometimes does, because like it's just a little bit be a bit nasally at times, but the narration aspects, the narration stuff isn't too bad. I kind of get a weird tingling in my loins when I hear it, so it's almost maybe the opposite of cringe. I don't know. What Dundee would I win? Oh man. Most likely to stream with his pants off goes to Let's Read. Okay, so hired by a family member to clean up after I recently had an extremely unsettling experience at the scene of a crime that I'd like to share with others here in the sub in order to find out if anyone else has seen something similar in the course of their daily lives, or has been told of such an incident by anyone they know. This whole thing went down at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, after I had been dispatched to the scene of the word suicide. What do you do about it? It's literally everywhere. Suicide synonym sounds. Is that? But I just feel like there's not much really skirting around that, you know. Harikari. Maybe I could just say seppuku. Hope everyone understands that. Well, sorry guys, there's gonna be a lot more stops in this story. An accident, yeah. Katie Ximenez with the 10. Thank you, Katie. Incident, self-killing. Just say scene. That's a good idea. Or death, yes. Something like that. Something that doesn't trigger old YouTube. Recently had an extremely unsettling experience at the scene of a death I'd like to share with others here in the sub in order to find out if anyone else has seen something similar in the course of their daily lives, or has been told of such an incident by anyone they know. This whole thing went down at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I had been dispatched to the scene across town from my present location. I was cleaning up an especially messy traffic accident. The other employee that was assisting me at the time was called away to another scene, so I wrapped up my work there and headed to the... The other employee that was assisting me at the time was called away to another scene, so I wrapped up my work there and headed over. By the time I arrived, the police and paramedics had already left with the poor man's body, and I was met at the door by one of the gentleman's family members. She was pretty upset, and I did my best to assure her that I would clean the scene so well she wouldn't be able to tell what had happened there. She just nodded and pointed to the bathroom. Taking the hint, I entered in to assess the... Yes, thank you, Kaylin. We need a happy accident counter there. Apparently we are up to 3 or 4. Somewhere, yeah, 4 sounds about right. She just nodded and pointed to the bathroom. Taking the hint, I entered it to assess the extent of the work needed, and once I was sure of what I would need, I went back out to my truck to get my suit and cleaning supplies. When I re-entered the home, I was met in the hallway by a skinny and unkempt young man. Right off, I could tell by his body language that he was angry about something. He began by getting very close to me and pointing his finger in my face. Then he said, "Where have you been? It's been over an hour. Get in there and clean up that mess." He wasn't quite yelling, but his voice was filled with aggression. I did the only thing I could do. I told him I had received the call when I was working across town and got there as fast as possible and told him I was sorry. I'd try to work as quickly as I could so they could be left alone to grieve. The last part of that statement seemed to annoy him, but he said nothing else. Although he was being rude, I blew it off because it wasn't the first time I had that experience with a family member. You have to remember that people deal with death in different ways, and we come into their lives in a very difficult time. Due to the situation, I got to work right away and attempted to finish as quickly as possible. Despite the fact that the man took his life with a shotgun, the bathroom wasn't as bad as you would imagine. Since I didn't have someone helping me, the cleaning took me a little longer than usual, but I still managed to finish in a few hours. Once I'd completed my work, I joined the female loved one in the living room to leave her paperwork and to tell her if she had noticed anything that I had missed. Call the company and someone would come over and take care of it, regardless of the time. 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year we offer this. It's an important thing to offer. No one's family should have to see anything they may... Oops. The aggression. Did you like my aggression? Son of a gun. It's an important thing to offer. No one's family should have to see anything that may remind them of the loss of their loved one. As she was showering... As she was showing me out, I expressed my personal condolences to her, and we continued making small talk. As we passed down the main hall, I noticed a photo on the wall of the young man that had encountered me. I was just sorry, that sounded very weird. As we passed down the main hall, I noticed a photo on the wall of the young man that had encountered me earlier in the appointment. The picture reminded me of our interaction, and I asked the woman to express my apologies to the male family member and to tell him I didn't intend to offend him. She stopped for a moment and gave me a very puzzled look. Her face confused me, and I began to explain our discussion when she stopped me and assured me that she was the only other... Oh boy. She stopped me for a moment and gave me a very puzzled look. Her face was Jesus Christ, I can't say words. Her face confused me, and I began to explain our discussion when she stopped me and assured me that she was the only other person in the house. Now, I was really baffled. She asked me to describe the gentleman, and I walked back over to the photo of him on the wall and pointed to him. When I did this, her expression changed into one of disgust, and she told me in a loud voice to show myself out. As she said this, she stood beet red while pointing at the front door. I had obviously done something to make her angry, and I wanted to avoid making things worse, so, without a word, I left the house as quickly as I could. Her reaction had me downright puzzled. I was at a loss how I offended her, so I chalked the whole day up to being one of those strange ones and headed home for the day. 1 or 2 times over the next few days, I would find myself turning her reaction to me. What? Turning? This is weird. 1 or 2 times over the next few days, I would find myself turning her reaction to me over maybe playing her reaction. 1 or 2 times over the next few days, I would find myself playing her reaction to me over and over in my head. Ultimately, I decided that either I was confusing that interaction with a different person, or I was playing wrong. With that conclusion, I chose to put the whole scene out of my head. Then, 2 days later, I was reading the local paper as I did every morning before work, and when it came to the obituaries, a particular picture made me choke on my coffee. When I looked again, the face looking back at me was the same one in that picture in that hallway. Once I fully composed myself, I read the copy below the picture and came to a horrifying realization. Either I was losing my mind, or I just had a conversation with the victim himself. The same one who had just blown himself away in that bathroom a mere 6 hours before. Now, I've never been a believer in any sort of afterlife. Once you die, the lights just go out. But no matter what I believe in, I'd had a conversation with a dead man. No matter how I try to explain it away, that's what happened. Of course, I haven't told anyone else about this. That's the beauty of anonymity. None of you know me personally, therefore, no matter if you think I'm nuts or not, it can't affect my professional life. No matter if you think I'm nuts or not, it can't affect my professional life. I realized fairly quickly in this line of work that if you say or do certain things to certain people, they become suspicious that the job is starting to affect you psychologically, and I can see the possibility of this occurring. However, I can promise you all here I am completely sane. Then again, crazy people never think they're crazy. As you can see, this has freaked me out. I even had a dream that I spoke to him again, but this time, you could see through his head where the buckshot went through. I need some input, and this is the only place I feel safe enough to ask for it. And before any of you say that I made the whole thing up, just screw off. Is screw off okay? Is that an okay thing to say? Yeah, sorry about my cough, sniff. As I talk sometime, my sinuses start to dry up. And it's annoying because I can hear this weird clicking sound in my nose that I'm worried to get picked up by the microphone. In the microphone. Big Avocado, we have been live for 39 minutes. Welcome to the Gun Show. And before any of you say that I made the whole thing up, and just screw right off, I am 100% serious about this, and the doubts of my sanity aside, I can guarantee this happened to me. Or at least I think it did. Like I said earlier, I'm asking for people's accounts of these types of interactions. Is anyone aware of this sort of thing happening? Without any believable stories from other members of the stub, I'll write this off as a stress-caused delusion, but I need to know. Either way, I have to discover the truth because not knowing may drive me crazy itself. Hell Peace, thank you. Appreciate that. We will continue to keep up the good work. I do feel bad that this stream might be a little bit shorter. You can cuss right off. It'd be funny to just say that for every bad word. You can just go cuss yourself, man. You can cuss and cuss, man. This is my Christian Cussin' Mind server, cusser. Have you considered collaborating with Corpse Husband again? Yeah, definitely. He, think's going through some stuff, you know, right now. You can probably tell from his channel that he has not, posted in quite a while. But maybe he'll be back soon. He said he would be back in March, but we all say a lot of things. Amber, thank you. I'm glad I can be your favorite YouTuber. It's honestly an honor because there's quite a few of us. Ash, you're gonna have to ask me some really existential questions to keep me talking. You can just cuss off, you mother hecker. Mother heckin' heckler. I'll blow your house to cusses. Wow, pretty princess. Big shout out from South Africa. That's wild. That's a distance away. I hope everything is nice and safe and secure down there. Do I ever read Discord stories? You know, I see that we have, you know, we obviously have the Discord stories, you know, like channel, I guess it's called. But I don't venture in there too much. They had talked about, you know, making a special video of Discord stories, but basically what I would need is someone, maybe a moderator or an individual, to go into the Discord, and if they're, you know, a big fan of reading those and stuff, to maybe find some of their favorites and excuse me, some of their favorites, and yeah, just compile those and send them my way, and or at least communicate with me on that, in that regard, and we can. That would be, I think, a really fun thing, because we have subscriber stories which come from the Reddit, and then we could do Discord servers and or stories, and that would explain a lot of things. Eric Lane with the $5. Eric, I had some really good advice for you. Let me know if you would like to hear that advice. I guess I could just say it. Jacob with Mr. Jacob Soliman, the $2 says, "Keep the good work. We love you." Thank you, Jake. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Kashi, beloved Kashi, with the $5.49 Canadian maple coins. Hey Dad, your thoughts on third eye worship? Oh my goodness, third eye worship. Now that's a name I have not heard in quite some time. Actually, I've never heard it before, so I'm going to look it up right now because it sounds interesting. Third eye worship. Probably something to do with some Joe Rogan DMT shiz. The third eye is a mystical and esoteric concept of a speculative, invisible eye which provides perception beyond ordinary sight. In certain dharmic spiritual traditions, the third eye refers to the ajna, or brow, the chakra. The third eye refers to the gate that leads to the inner realms and spaces of higher consciousness. In New Age spirituality, the third eye often symbolizes a state of enlightenment or the evocation of mental images having deeply personal spiritual or psychological significance. The third eye is often associated with religious visions, clairvoyance, the ability to observe chakras and auras, precognition, and out-of-body experiences. People who are claimed to have the capacity to utilize their third eyes are sometimes known as seers. In Hinduism, the third eye is said to be located around the middle of the forehead, slightly above the junction of the eyebrows. In Taoism and many traditional Chinese religion sects such as Chan, called Zen in Japanese, third eye training involves focusing attention on the point between the eyebrows with the eyes closed. and while the body is in various Qigong postures. The goal of this training is to allow students to tune into their correct vibration of the universe and gain a solid foundation on which to reach more advanced meditation levels. Taoism teaches that the third eye, also called the mind's eye, is situated between the two physical eyes and expands up to the middle of the forehead when opened. Taoism claims that the third eye is one of the main energy centers of the body, located in the sixth chakra, forming a part of the main meridian, the line separating left and right hemispheres of the body. In Taoist alchemical traditions, the third eye is the frontal part of the upper dantian, upper Anabar field, and is given the evocative name Muddy Pellet. Well, I definitely think the third eye is an interesting concept. I believe people believe it's very similar to obviously it probably is directly related to the concept of the pineal gland that our beloved Joe Rogan, Lord and Savior, loves to talk about it all the time. And I think, like we talked about last time, how we have ears to receive certain frequencies and vibrations. I'm bringing back wiki reads, that's true. That would be a good wiki read. But how we have certain organs within our body that can interpret, different organs that can interpret different vibrations and signals and frequencies and radiations and vibrations and all that kind of stuff. I do feel as if though the pineal gland could potentially be directly involved with receiving maybe frequencies from an extra-dimensional perception. I mean, the world is quite a strange phenomena, you know what I mean? You never know. Vegan Penguin with the 10 says, "My boy, I'll send this after the story." Ha, just kidding. Well, hey, thank you, Vegan Penguin. And on the screen it says you donated twice, so that's twice as tantalizing, but either way, thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of people sometimes think that the spiritual is not, like, the spiritual world of sorts, obviously it's strange, it's a strange phenomenon, but I mean, every literal aspect of our existence is like a strange phenomenon. Like, whenever you think, I remember hearing a pretty interesting detail when it talks about, like, the distance of one atom, like one atom from another in our own body, that's like a physical body that we feel, like when you touch your skin, your one finger can't really press through that hand, but the actual distance between the particular atoms that make up our body, like in proportion, from another atom, is essentially like from you to like a distant, like miles and miles away at like a distant mountain, is the illustration that they were giving. So it's like, in a lot of ways, like, we simply are kind of like just sort of genetic, I guess vibratory energy that essentially interacts with each other in ways that push each other away. If you imagine like two magnets, like you could try to push them together, but they constantly keep their distance from one another. So to be honest, I have no idea where I was going with any of that, but that's okay. Vegan Penguin with it too. It says lag from Antarctica. What can I say? Oh, okay. I hope it didn't based on a glitch force you to donate again or something like that. But you guys should look into the holographic universe. It's one of the more interesting aspects of the world. Vegan with a 2 again says, "Just take my money," as YouTube says. Well, thank you. Too smart. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I just watch a lot of like people on YouTube pretty much like muse about the same things, but they articulate it much better than I do. Phoenix Fire with a 5 says, does the mistake counter bother you? Do you don't want to make you uncomfortable just doing it for lulz? No, I don't get bothered by the mistake counter, because I think it's a fun little interaction we have and that kind of thing. And the only thing that gets me sometimes is whenever I get like added like about the mistake counter while I read, just because I'm like, it's like first, like, you know, like my mind tends to operate based on color coding. So sometimes when I read, like when I'm scanning for information, I almost feel like I'm not even reading the words. I'm just like looking for colors, if that makes sense. So like whenever I see like when someone does @let's read in relation to the mistake counter, I almost like see the orange or yellow @let's read, and it like sort of like throws like the right side of my brain over into a weird, it like divides my left and right side of the brain, which I guess is fine because they're two different like operating meridians perhaps or whatever. But at the same, don't feel bad, Phoenix, because it's not a big deal at all. But I think it's fun, like even if you were just to type the mistake counter in there without doing the thing, that's a-okay with me. Love you, appreciate it. You watch paranormal shows, Supernatural, Let's Read, and Shane Dawson. That's cool. You know, if I had any sort of like philosophy or politically related, you know, just stuff that like forces you to talk a lot type shows, mine would fail very quickly, because I just don't think that, like, if there was like a really objective thing that I had to get across, like it requires me a lot of like researching to really be able, and almost practice to be able to articulate my points. Otherwise, like, to just be able to try to convince someone of something I know a relative superficial amount of information on, or it requires a lot of objective data, I'm not going to do a very good job. Venikin's art with a 2 says, may the best butter bless your spiritual socks. Please, Spirit, fill your spiritual socks with the blessed butter. Supernatural's coming to an end. No. JD just had the worst deja vu. Tell us about your deja vu, JD. I want to hear this, because it might be a glitch in the Matrix. Big Avocado, once I show my face, will I do a live stream with my face? That I will not do. That is something that I just don't feel wholeheartedly comfortable jumping into. I think just the voice is something I should at least maintain within the context of my YouTube channel. Vegan Penguin with the 2 says his name isn't Let's Read, it's Daddy. Daddy reads. Doink Daddy. Hello Reddit. My name is Aaron, and a discussion I recently had with my mother reminded me of a terrifying thing I'd experienced. This incident happened in my late teens. I'm currently 23 and figured I better relay the tale to my fellow readers and writers before it becomes lost again to more recent and important happenings. When this story happened, I was near 17 and I was working with my mother in her business cleaning office buildings. It sucks sometimes, but it was mostly easy and paid well for a teenager. I'd done it since I turned 15, and I'd managed to save a big chunk of cash to go toward college. My family wasn't a working class, therefore, or was working class, whoopsies. You don't want a face reveal anymore. Everybody's pulling out of the face reveal. Hey, we got another 100 selfies to go in there, and there's no backing out now. But I do advise, and I know there's going to be a certain morbid curiosity to it that's would pull me in. But if you would think that seeing my mug would ruin in some fashion, or maybe disturb your experience with, disturb your experience with the narrations, I would just suggest avoiding it. And the nice thing is within the selfies channel on the Discord, I will not be pinning the picture, and none of my mods will be pinning it either. So you might have to do some searching within there, and it may or may not drop at a very odd hour of the night. Emma, all the social media links are down in the little description on the Stram. Hopefully that is viewable. I'm not absolutely certain. Barry, thank you so much. Barry doesn't care if I'm ugly, and I appreciate that because we're all our biggest critics. Shadow Neko Rose with the 10 says, I adore your voice and love all your videos. Thank you, Shadow. Thank you for the 10. Monte Carlo says, do you look at our selfies? Oh yeah, I go through like every selfie. It's kind of weird. It's just like I see that it's updated, and then it starts me at like wherever I left off looking, so I just kind of like scroll through, and not that I'm like weird about it or anything. You just kind of stare at other humans' faces and go about your day. You're like, oh, those are nice. Those are pretty faces I'm looking at. I like these people. Now, if you posted a scary face, I wouldn't like a scary face. So no one make any scary faces, okay? Cashy, thank you. Cashy doesn't give a flying F if I'm ugly or not. Vegan Penguin with 2 says, I don't know why you guys want to see Jeff the Killer's face. I know. It's pretty much guaranteed death. Oh, Robin Mickelson, which is the guy who made my buddy who made the opening thing, or the opening animation. He has an Instagram too, which I'm going through that, and man, it's just so talented. Like, it's crazy what you can do with computers, like just mixing illustrations with 3D renderers and textures and all that kind of stuff. It's really truly impressive. Eric Lanes with $2 says, I can't grow a beard. I have kind of a baby face. That's okay. Baby faces are good. Yeah. Joel the Creeper. Yeah, that's you could do a creepypasta about just the guy who was just creepy and awkward and didn't actually hurt anybody ever. But Eric, no worries. Just I've come to the realization, we were having a discussion. Eric has a bit of a fun little theme about some of his donations and his desire for the lady counterparts, if you get my drift. And I've realized that in life, it's probably best that you just focus on yourself. You focus on your craft, whatever that craft may be, you're developing skills, your job, things of that nature. Your passions, you focus on those, you harness them, you master them, and truth be told, if you can do that, if you can put more love into yourself, eventually someone will see that, and it'll be that much easier to love you. So, love yourself, follow your passions. Let's read out. See ya. Blast through my window. I'd done it since I turned 15 and had managed to save a big chunk of cash to go toward college. My family was working class, therefore my parents couldn't afford to pay my way through school, and since I'd seen student loans almost destroy my older brother, I opted to pay my own way if I could, and I eventually did. The evening this happened, Mom and I were cleaning a large floor-sized office she had just got the job for. This place was an average-sized job, and we figured we could finish the work in 2 or 3 hours. But from the way it seemed, the office employees were unusually clean. What? The office employees? Oh. This place was an average-sized job, and we figured we could finish the work in 2 or 3 hours, but from the way it seemed, The office employees were unusually clean, so we got it done in less than 2. That night I was wrapping up the vacuuming in the main hall when I heard what sounded like a woman's voice. Genuinely crap. Generally, when we began cleaning the offices, all of the employees were long gone. At this particular job, it was nearing 3 in the morning, and we had assumed that we had the place to ourselves. I turned off the vacuum for a moment to see if I was indeed hearing someone, but heard nothing, so I went back to work. When I reached the point in which the cord couldn't go any further, I unplugged it so I could move to the closer outlet. The second the vacuum stopped, I heard a woman's voice again. This time I could hear it clearly asking for help. It sounded like it came from the office at the end of the hall, so I walked up to the door and slowly turned the knob and slightly cracked it. Despite the fact that I was shaking from fear, already, I quietly peeked in and saw a large man holding a oh shit. Monday morning moon. This is live, my friend. Welcome. You find my mistakes adorable. I wish my dad said that. Just kidding. Eric, $2. Thank you, Eric. This is my passion are scares, spaghetti, and conspiracies. There we go. We could make a very spooky spaghetti dinner, and whenever someone chokes on it, we could cover it all up, and that would be the conspiracy. Guys, we're all 10s here. Cashy's right. You're all 10s to me, and you need to join. And you know what 10s do? You know what a bunch of 10s do? A bunch of sexy hot 10s? They join my Discord and be nice to each other on there. No arguing. No arguing allowed on the Discord. I know, Spartan would be on my butt right now, trolling me hard. Also, how many people are currently viewing the stream? It's weird, the OBS stream thing, sometimes it tells me how long I've been live or whatever, but sometimes it just, as far as the viewers, it doesn't like automatically update. Excuse me. Okay, so, where did I... Okay, oh yeah, I heard the woman's voice again. I gotta lube up my lips. Pamela just wants a husband that adores her. I hear that. You just have to be adorable. I don't really know what that means, but you can imagine. Bunny rabbits are adorable. Perhaps we could do some sort of cross-speciesing. Cashy, do not delete your photos off of the selfie. Otherwise, I'm gonna dock 1,000 selfies from the face reveal. And that is a fact. Okay. The second the vacuum stopped, I heard a woman's voice again. But this time I could hear it clearly asking for help. It sounded like it came from the office at the end of the hall, so I walked up to the door and slowly turned the knob and slightly cracked it. Despite the fact that I was already shaking from fear, I quietly peeked in and saw a large man holding a woman in a business suit down on her desk. From what I could see, the man was trying to hold her down with one hand while attempting to pull his underpants with the other. The room was dimly lit, but I'm almost positive he was also holding a small knife to her throat. Regardless of whether I was terrified, there was no way I could let him assault her. So, gritting my teeth, I threw the door open and yelled at him to get off of her. The man jumped up real fast, and that was when I could see the knife more closely. Despite it only being a small Swiss Army knife type, I was still scared out of my mind and was already questioning my decision. He stood for a moment staring at me as he held the knife in front of him. Unsure of what to do, I told him in the most confident voice I could summon that there were several people. Eric with the 2 says, Joel, do you have a beard? If so, I am jealous. I unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, unfortunately, do have a beard, and it's pretty rugged in the sense of my barber told me I had shark skin. Because I remember I used to go to this one barber. He was the only barber in town who did straight razor shaves. And, he would do the straight razor shave. And, shoot, I thought my computer blue screen for a second, but it did not, so thank the Lord. And, you know, like, and eventually he stopped doing the straight razor shaves, but I remember, like, he would, you know, do the straight razor shave with me where he would cut it down, real close or whatever, and then, you know, get the steam and all that kind of stuff, and, like, the, I don't know, lubricant or whatever that he rubs on your face, and, the foam. And it just, like, it was not, like, a pleasant experience. Like, it, like, legitimately kind of hurt to do. Whereas, you know, you see some people do straight razor shaves and it's just, like, on point, you know what I mean? And he told me that that I was essentially destined to have a beard because he felt as if though my skin was shark skin because it was just so just too hard to cut, like too hard to like get rid of the hairs and stuff like that. So probably if you see me 364 days out of the 365 days of the year, I will most likely have some fashion of a beard. Rachel says you're not supposed to rub lube on your face. I don't know, Rachel. That's up for debate. Because I've been doing it all stream. Despite it only being a small Swiss Army type knife, I was still scared. Okay. Despite it only being a small Swiss Army type knife, I was still scared out of my mind and was already questioning my decision. He stood for a moment staring at me as he held the knife in front of him. Unsure of what to do, I told him in the most confident voice I could. Summon. What fuck? God damn it. Unsure of what to do, I told him in the most confident voice I could summon that there were several other people in the office with me and one had a gun. That was all a crock, of course. My mother was the only other person on that floor, and besides the security guard, who was God knows where, we were the only other people in the entire building. I could see by the way he looked at me. He wasn't sure if I was bluffing or not. Just to be a bit more reassuring, I told him that I had called the security guard, and he had already called the cops. Almost as if I made it so, I could hear sirens outside the building. I did my best to stifle my shock and nonchalantly pointed outside to drive home the point. When he heard the sirens, he dropped the knife and ran from the room. As he approached me, I shrunk from him, but he wasn't even paying attention to me at that point. I was so relieved. I let out a huge sigh and ran over to the lady. She was curled up on the floor next to her desk crying. Didn't think of anything else to do but hold her as she wept. Not long after the attacker ran away, the 2 male police officers came into the office with a pair of paramedics. One of the paramedics asked me if I was hurt, and I assured him I wasn't. Another officer, this time a female, soon came into the room and began assisting one of the male officers while they tried to get a statement from the victim. The other male cop approached me and suggested I fill him in on what I'd seen. We walked out into the hall and I told him everything that had happened. While I was speaking to him, I noticed my mother sitting at one of the desks talking to another police officer. I'll admit, I was a little concerned that the attacker had perhaps went after my mother, but Once I heard her speaking to the police as they first entered the floor, I was able to relax and focus on the poor woman who had just escaped being violated. Fuck. Yeah, this story definitely took a turntable. All my pipes are working. Oh man. Okay. I really need to highlight where I'm at. I'll admit, I was a little concerned that the attacker. Had perhaps went after my mother, but once I heard her speaking to the police as they first entered the floor, I was able to relax and focus on the poor woman who had just escaped being violated. When I'd finished talking to the cop, I walked over to my mother. The first thing that she did was hug me and ask me if I was all right. I told her the same thing I told the paramedic. Then came my turn to ask if she was okay, and she simply said yes. Being curious, I asked her if she knew who had called the police. Apparently, she had been the one. When she had finished with the rest of the cleaning, she was curious what was holding me up. Just before she came around the corner of the hallway I had been vacuuming, she heard me talking to someone in the office. Even though she didn't know who I was speaking to, she could hear the terror in my voice, so she hid behind one of the nearby desks and called the cops. I didn't hesitate to thank her for doing that, but she waved it off like it was no big deal. My mom is the coolest chick in the world, and I can only hope to grow up to be half the woman she is. We sat at one of the tables while we waited to get the okay to go by the police. After 10 or so minutes, the paramedics came out of the back office with the lady on a gurney. As they passed, she thanked me for saving her. Unsure of what to say, I started crying. I'm still not sure why, but I did. Perhaps the guilt I felt for not acting faster was the reason, but this long after the attack, it probably doesn't matter. A little while after they had taken her away, we were allowed to leave. My mom tried to remind the police to make sure to clean up after themselves. She joked that she didn't want to be blamed for the office being dirty. They assured her that they would leave the office spotless. I recognized that joking in a situation such as this may appear crude, but being able to laugh did work well to dissipate the tension in the air. After we'd finished loading our supplies in the truck, we headed home. At first, I feared I'd have a difficult time sleeping that morning, but I guess the come down from the adrenaline left me exhausted, and I woke up in the same position I had fallen asleep in. The next night, my mom and I had went to work. She volunteered to vacuum the hall that I had been in the night before, and I didn't argue. I had walked down that hall earlier in the night just to see how I would feel about being there. Strangely, I wasn't bothered at all by it, but then again, I wasn't the one who was assaulted either. As the days morphed into weeks, we continued to work, and by the time school started, I had all but forgotten about what had happened. It wasn't until November that we heard anything new about that night. Fortunately for all decent people, the police caught the guy as he ran out of the building. From what they could tell, he had slipped into the building at some point that evening and snuck past the security guard. He did admit that he was there to steal stuff to sell for narcotics, but they couldn't get him to admit to the assault. It didn't really matter what he said. The police had enough evidence to convict, and since he already had 2 strikes, they were able to put him away for life. As far as his victim, I hope she was able to put her life back together and move forward. I've not heard from her since or run into her, nor do I ever expect to. It's probably best I'm not around to remind her of that terrible night. Mom kept going with the business until last year when she remarried and was finally able to put away her duster and vacuum. Paul, her new husband, is a great guy and they seem very happy. Now, come to me. John Winehandle with the $10 says, I'm sure you've answered this before, but will we ever read sci-fi stories again? I love the old creepypasta and sci-fi stories. I don't know. I don't think so, at least currently. I said earlier that maybe I would be okay with reading like a short creepypasta here at the end of these stories. If you guys would be interested, it might be easier since I don't have to have a microphone, you know, directly in front of my face, and wouldn't have to worry about starting and stopping and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys can kind of maybe come to a consensus on one you'd like to hear read that's not extraordinarily long, be sure to let one of the mods know here, and maybe we can work that out. That'd be awesome. Okay, my biggest hope is that through my... Okay. Now we come to me. As I said, I put myself through college and just graduated this past year. My biggest hope is that through my education and experience in making and saving money, I can help other young people avoid the pitfalls of borrowing money for school and other associated financial mistakes most Americans make. I'm not pretending to be some sort of get-rich-quick guru. I just want to help people get out of bad spots, like I did that night. Well, that's good, I guess. I think we're starting to see a bit of that philosophy begin to arise amidst the youth. Begin to rise amidst the youth of our culture as far as college goes, because believe me, you, that college is not quite all it's cracked up to be, and the only things that are guaranteed once you get out of college isn't necessarily a job, but is most likely debt and probably a drinking or drug problem or some sort of other earthly vice. But yeah. School is not always... Well, sometimes school is for fools. Look at me! Unless you can get a scholarship. Honestly, I always thought, like, if you get like a full ride somewhere for something, it almost sounds like just like a fun experience, you know what I mean? I'm sure, Jesus. I'm sure that, I'm sure it could be a good time. "28 feels 6. Same here. I'm 28, but I feel 26. Oh yes, I dress... My friend did actually, my male friend did dress as a sexy nurse for Halloween. It was pretty damn funny. He had like the old school, like, short skirt, you know, hat and that kind of thing. Eric Lane with the 2 says, Eric doesn't smoke or drink. He is purer than honey. Eric, you sound like an angel. Don't smoke nor drink? Sweet Lord. Who raised you? The Pope? Krishna himself? I do have pets. I have a pet. Well, I guess if a fish counts as a pet, I have a goldfish that is literally, I want to say this August. I got him last August, and he's survived for a really long time. His tank is very dirty, but I was told that you can keep a goldfish's tank dirty to a certain extent because they will actually survive on algae that's within the tank. And I still feed him the little crumbs of goldfish feed, whatever that little flakes, I don't know what they are. But it's funny because I've had that, you know, goldfish feed, been feeding them like pretty much every day, I guess, and it's still, it might as well be like a lifetime supply of goldfish feed because I have not made a dent in it at all. But yeah, I have a cat too. Mr. Pradeep. Or Purdeep. His on his birth certificate is Purdeep. It's Purrrdeep. But it's kind of a play on the name Pradeep, which, if you guys have ever seen The Pickup Artist, on VH1, I think it was, there was one of the contestants on there. His name was Pradeep. And Pradeep was kind of like as my old roommate used to call him, a tepid wimp. And my cat is kind of like a little tepid wimp, so he's cute though. He kills mice, so he's not that much of a wimp. Lexi Lou, what did you say? Remember not to cuss so much because Susan, the demonetizing old crude, is watching tonight. I hope she is. I hope she's finds herself nice and relaxed. I hope she's having a great night, and I hope she donates close to $1 million. That would be hilarious. I mean, I'd like to know if any of the CEOs and stuff of like YouTube or whatever, like if they actually have their favorite YouTube channels, you know what I mean? I'm sure they do, but they probably have to like be super like low key about it and stuff. Eric with the $2 says, God raised Eric. He did. You are a child of God, Eric. Coco says, look after your fish better. I don't know. There's not much you can do with the fish. I mean, I have like a filter on my thing, and he swims around. You give him flakes. Basic biology takes care of the rest. Also, goldfish. The fact that he survived this long is kind of like he might as well be the longest surviving goldfish of all time. If we could get Guinness World Records down here to take a peek. Kristen Collins with the $4 says, hi, I love your videos. Pet the kitty for me, please. Absolutely. If I can reach him. I got all these cords on my body. Can you hear the petting? Petting intensifies. Oh, now he's mad because he was licking himself. Now he's like, what the hell's going on? What is this nonsense? He's a good boy. You used to pet your betta fish? Oh my goodness. That sounds dangerous. Alright, let's see. I've got a news story to share with everyone today. It didn't actually happen to me, but to my grandma while she was still living in Mexico. Since she can't write English very well, I had her retell it to me so I could post it here. She had first told me about it when I was young, and although the small details slowly slip from my mind, I have always remembered the overall facts of it, and I still shiver every time I'm reminded of what occurred. I'll try to be brief when I tell you a little background. Oops. Eric with the 2 says, Eric wants to learn how to fish. Seems fun. Yeah. A lot of YouTube videos, and I'm sure, I don't know if you have any individuals in your life that also fish, but I'm sure they'd be more than happy to take you out. But fishing and hunting was, was definitely a big thing around me growing up. I just never really got into it. It always seemed kind of like more of a pain in the butt. When I was younger, I'd rather just sit in and play video games, but I guess that's like pretty much every kid. But as I have gotten older, I have kind of more appreciated those kinds of activities, hunting and fishing. Definitely takes a lot of bronze to accomplish those sort of tasks, and I admire people that put in the work and kind of just sit back and enjoy it. Jacobine de Groot, the 2 says, do you actually look at the Discord selfie server? I do. I peer deep into everyone's eyes and I analyze their inner souls. I scan every one of their faces into my matrix, and I'm able to recreate their digital selves within my virtual world. You guys want a selfie of me? Well, I've created entire simulations of every one of you 1,000 times. Just kidding. Marissa, it's good to have you. I'll try to be brief when I tell you a little of her background information. At the time, she was almost 50, and because of a recent divorce, she was forced to go back to work. She had scored a well-paying job as a maid for a wealthy family in Mexico City. The family was made up of the 2 parents and a young boy. Gran doesn't remember the boy's exact age, but she did know he was under 10. They also had several other staff working for them at the time, and all lived elsewhere except for their security team. As you may know, Mexico City has had the unfortunate honor of being the kidnap capital of... Whoops. Eric with the 2 says everyone should talk in third person, like Eric does. Yes. Let's read agrees with that, Eric. Come on, 3D rendering costs a lot. What are we talking about here? 3D rendering. Oh, me. I just realized that. Not if your entire virtual world and requires no rendering time, and all happens within your own personal brain. Katie, you better be prepared for a very handsome mustache coming your way. This music is spooky. Can you guys hear the music okay? What mic do I use? Well, currently I'm using a lapel mic, $20 on Amazon for my streaming, which I would highly suggest because I think it's like, well, I'm sure you can really use any mic for streaming, so, but I mean the way that this is set up, it's just like really convenient and nice. Though I don't understand why, for the price, like I don't understand why more like gamer headsets don't use like the same technology as lapel mics, because I feel like that would be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And then for my recording mic, I use an H4n microphone, which is like a field recorder. Not the most ideal for voice recording, but it's kind of like, you know, why fix what's not broken kind of thing. As you may know, Mexico City has had the unfortunate honor of being the kidnap capital of the world, but at this time, which was around 1995, they were ranked 2nd or 3rd behind Colombia. Most of the more wealthy families in the country are forced to have around-the-clock security teams because of the constant threat of abduction to their children. Some of those families also require their staff to pass a background check in order to limit the chance of hiring people who could pose a security risk. Gran's father had been a well-respected judge in the city, and because of this, in addition to a load of experience in maid services when she was younger, the family hired her on the spot. She'd only been working for the family about a year when this happened. My aunt had moved back in with her mother after the divorce, so she would provide transportation when she was available. That day, she had problems with her Beetle, so Gran ended up arriving at the family's house about 15 minutes late. She was put on edge before she even entered the house. The security team member, Manuel, who was usually somewhere outside the front, was nowhere to be seen, and when she called out for him, didn't respond. This concerned her at first, but she figured he was called away to do another job, so she continued into the gate and onto the front door. Upon entering, she was once again put on edge, this time because of the total silence. And all the time that she had worked there, she couldn't ever remember a second when the house was quiet. There was always some form of noise coming from the family, staff, or television. Once again, she called out. This time for the mother, then anyone, but no one answered. She continued to call out various staff members' names as she walked through the house's many rooms. As she drew closer to the rear of the home, she began to notice an odd burning smell. The odd smell got stronger as she neared the master bedroom. The door to the room was always kept closed, but this morning it stood slightly open, and this made her even more nervous. The father of the family made it clear to her that she was allowed to clean the room, but the door should always be closed after, and... Jeez. Eshi, with the $5.49 Canadian coins, says Abby in Discord wants to hear you curse in voice chat. Please, Dad. I'm sure we could arrange a curse session. Say every bad word in the book, such as fart, dingus, poopy doopy, slurper derp, and microb. Don't tell anybody I said microb. The father of the family made it clear to her that she was allowed to clean the room, but the door should always be closed after her and never left open even when she was in the room. She assumed this was because they valued their privacy, but acknowledged it could be a safety measure. Regardless of the reason, it being open even a bit was a bad sign. With every step closer she took to the door, she felt the sick feeling in her stomach grow worse. Slowly pushing the door open, she was met with a ghastly sight. Everyone was dead. When I say everyone, it's just what I mean. It looked like every member of the household, including all of the staff, but her, had been packed into the room and machine-gunned to death. Shocked beyond relief, she ran outside screaming for the police. She told me she must have screamed for help for... God damn it. She told me she must have screamed for help for at least 10 minutes before she was able to flag down a passing car. The man in the car told her to get in, and they drove to a local store and called the police. They returned to the house and waited for the police to arrive. Finally, they managed to respond after almost 30 minutes. Despite the requests of the officers, she couldn't bring herself to go back into the house. The sight of all that blood, and worse of all... Damn it. The sight of all that blood, and worst of all, the poor little boy, was too much for her to handle. She even had to hide her eyes as the medical officials brought out the bodies. Then a strange question was asked to her by the police. "Where's the security team?" They said none of the bodies matched their description. After a much longer statement to the police and a small amount of investigating, it was discovered that the entire security team was missing. Gran is unsure of how many men made up the team, but she knew at least 2 men worked during the day when she was there. She never heard of it, but... Isabel Holmes with the 279 Canadian bones. What's your favorite YouTuber? So like daily, I like to watch Styx Hexenhammer give his input on life and politics. I'm not, I don't watch like a lot of YouTube videos, but sometimes I just enjoy to have people's, rambling thoughts go on as I do other things. And I also really enjoy Red Letter Media. Red Letter Media is a really funny guy. Or, well, funny group of people. Basically, they just review movies, and just their level of sarcasm and jokes and stuff, and just their dynamic amidst each other is pretty wild. And hilarious. Jacobine de Groot with the 2 says, "Do you always believe the stories you tell?" I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess it's really not. It's not really my decision whether I believe or really a big deal whether or not I believe what I hear, but I guess it's more whether you believe what you hear. Eric, you like Watch Mojo? I've seen a few good Watch Mojo things. I don't know. There's never really been big into like the countdown type channels per se. Maybe if it's a topic that really gets me, but I just really enjoy YouTube videos that talk about ideas, you know, like thoughts and words and things of that nature. I'm not really too into. I like comedy. I watched for a little while. I watched some videos from this guy Churdleys and various other things, but I'm definitely not the most loyal subscriber per se, because I only really watch some channels for so long and then kind of back out of it because just kind of lose interest, or I'm just not really into that or whatever, or I'm only really into like one particular thing. Monte Carlo with the 2 says, what style did you rock as a kid, teen, clothes and hair? Oh boy, yeah, I guess like as a I remember in 5th grade and like early middle school, I definitely was rocking like the stupid skater type. Not like it's stupid or whatever, but I mean just like the skater, like the fake skater, because I would try to skate and do things but just would suck and then kind of like give up really fast. But I, 5th grade, I used to spike my hair and like have like frosted tips. Cassie says Joel loves Amy Schumer. Yeah, she's a beaut. But yeah, what was it like? I don't know. I guess like as middle school started to go on, I just kind of like had more of like a laissez-faire approach to clothing and stuff. I definitely didn't have style or anything like that. Jake with $2 says, Abby also wants you to say, "Doink me, Daddy Doink. Doink me." She never heard if the men were ever found because she made the decision to leave Mexico not long after that, but after some time thinking, she agrees with the police's theory that they were in fact the culprits, or at least were told not to be around when everything was planning to arrive. Another realization only came to her much later when my mother happened to remind her that she was late for work. Whoops. Sunblaster with the 5 Canadian maple syrup covered doll hairs says, when I come back from military training, the first thing I do is listen to your new videos. That's awesome. I'm glad I can help you relax and cool down from a day at the range or wherever you're at. Yeah, Amy Schumer, I don't know. I remember the one thing I hated about Amy Schumer the most was that she was what ruined the Netflix rating system. Some of you may recall that, I don't know, 2015 or maybe even before that, or well, obviously before that, but Netflix used to have this rating system where it was based on stars, and if you liked the show, you would give it 5 out of 5 stars or whatever you thought it was worth receiving. And Amy Schumer came out with this like stand-up special that I actually watched 30 minutes of just to see what the hubbub was about. Because basically what happened is like people like basically really, really didn't like her stand-up special and gave her like 1 out of 5 stars on average or whatever, and just like bombed it, just completely bombed the ratings on it or whatever. And yeah, and then all of a sudden, like not that long after, Netflix changed their rating system to like some sort of like matchability kind of thing. Like, oh, you've watched this, therefore you might like this, and it would say like this is 95% matched up or something of that nature, and with like a green thing. So like visually, you might see 95%, and you think, oh, 95%, and it's green, therefore it's great, and I should watch it. But it's not really like a indicative of what the show, whether or not the show is good, which I think is like not the most intelligent thing. I mean, obviously they have other data that they can go with that they can judge whether or not a show is successful, such as views and that kind of thing, which I think at the end of the day is what the only thing they really care about is getting people to watch longer. I guess, I don't know, maybe being stuck on there a lot is worth it, but I mean, if they get their monthly payments and stuff, it's no big deal. Micah Lovely with the 2 says, how long is your stream going to be? Well, we're on story 3 of 6, so I guess maybe another hour or 2 hours here. But yeah, and then essentially whatever connections she had was able to get rid of that rating system, and I watched, so after that I was like, oh, okay, I'll give this a try and see, because I love stand-up comedy. Like I love Louis C.K., I love Bill Burr, I love, if you remember Pablo Francisco and all the, or Francesco, I forget his name, but just amazing, hilarious I love stand-up comedy. I think people say it's like a weird form of comedy. I don't really care. I think they say hilarious stuff, and it makes me laugh, and it's nice to just like have on. And George Carlin back in the day was the man. But I watched Amy Schumer's stand-up, and it certainly did not tickle me much. I think South Park's, or at least what the memes say, their assessment of her stand-up abilities were, pretty astute. And she actually came to my hometown once before, and literally the whole time, I didn't go to it, but from what I heard, the whole time that she was there, like as soon as she got in, she was just so mean to the audience, and just like, was just so judgmental, or just so mean the entire time, because, it was like a small town and yada yada yada. I mean, whatever, they're used to like the big town crap. Big city, what, I don't really care, because they're stand-up comedians, they can say whatever they want, but it's just like, it's not like she does it in like a tasteful manner. She's certainly not like intelligent about it, you know what I mean? I love Comedy Central roasts. Those should come back. I don't know why they don't. Comedy Central is gone down the pooper. I don't watch it. I used to love Stephen Colbert back in the day. I used to love all that, pretty much all that stuff. I haven't watched South Park in a while. I'm curious if it's still like any good. But I don't know. A lot of media overall, especially like the mainstream like stuff, has just become so watered down with bad writers, and I'm not even sure who's in charge anymore, because they're just taking us down a very, very boring, predictable route. Eric Lane with the 2 says, Eric wants to explore haunted buildings. Eric, we gotta get out there, man. We have to kick down some ghost doors. We have to suck them into our vacuums. We have to suck some ghosts, dude. Okay, crap. Where was I? Normally I kept my mouse over where I left off, but I forgot to do that. To this day, as far as anyone is aware, regardless of what side of, okay. She never heard if the men were ever found. Okay. Another realization only came to her much later, when my mother happened to remind her that she was late for work that day, and if she hadn't been, she most likely would have been killed too. Well, if any of you have paid any attention to the media in the last 30 years, you'll know that law enforcement in Mexico is less than effective, especially when it comes to crimes of this nature. To this day, as far as anyone in our family is aware of, regardless of what side of the border they're living on, these murders are still unsolved. I'm sure if a crime such as this happened in the US, the odds would be good that it would be solved, but unfortunately in Mexico, a large and ever-growing majority of instances like these are being left unresolved. This is the main reason my family has left. If the leaders of a nation won't defend its people, they don't deserve the respect, or at least that's what my papa says. A hilarious number of theories about what happened in that house have been pushed about over the last 20 years or so. They cover the range from cartel hit to botched kidnapping and even alien attack. And yes, I'm serious. My grandma's opinion is that it was indeed a botched kidnapping, and what I've learned from her and my other family members about the way kidnappings were done down there, I agree with her. However, even though she would have a hard time believing it, the chance of a cartel hit wouldn't be impossible. They wouldn't have been the first family to have a drug lord for a father. At the end of the day, the reason doesn't matter, especially more than 20 years after it occurred. The fact is that a family and their staff were slaughtered in the name of greed, and the people they had trusted most to protect them were most likely responsible for it. If this fact isn't enough to give you chills, remember, they were still free, and may even be planning to do it again. Their next target may be reading this right now. The cartel is coming. That's scary. You do hear a lot of, like, I don't know, I watched Narcos on Netflix. That's a good show, especially the first season. It's weird. It's sometimes really weird to me, like, that... it's weird to me that, I don't know. Weird to me that the people who control the drugs have just so much power, you know? I mean, I guess that's the money. If they're the money, you know, they're going to be in control, but to me, it just seems so, unorganized. You know, obviously it's called organized crime, but, like, I don't know. Perhaps they would, there wouldn't be as much, needless death, I guess, if they could get some sort of grasp on it. I don't know. Whatever I'm saying is not going to help anybody, so maybe I'll stop talking about that. Michelle's a sucker for an American accent, huh? Is that so? We all think the grass is greener on the other side. But sometimes we forget to look down at our feet and see that we're standing in a big pile of green grass. Box Night, welcome. We're popping off. Stories are popping off right now. How do I feel about foreign conflict TV shows? And if you like watching, you should check out Paola on Netflix. Okay. Foreign conflict TV shows. I don't know. It's difficult to say. It's funny because I realized, like, you watch so many movies about intelligence agencies. You watch so many movies about conflict and how operations are ran and all that kind of stuff. And I've come to realize that, like, in real life, like, people just aren't that smart. People just are not smart enough to hide, especially now with the age of the internet where information flows so freely and readily, and you can't centralize information. I mean, although they are trying, you just realize how stupid all those people, like, you know, at the end of the day, any sort of governmental entity is just a group of people just like me and you know, and everybody else. We're all fallible. We're all relatively, like, naive human beings. So, like, I always find it interesting whenever they sort of glorify those certain aspects of government and that kind of thing. Hi, kitty. What are you doing? It's so funny. My cat sometimes, like, when I sit down in my bed, I'll come over and just, like, bump his head into me like a little baby. Oh, probably because he no, never mind. I thought he wanted out for a second, but he doesn't. He just wants to have a good snuggle. But yeah. I don't know. I kind of hate whenever, like, they make movies about, like, military experiences and stuff like that, because it sort of glorifies war and things of that nature, or sort of, like, paints conflict in a narrative that's black and white. But, like, in reality, I think we all realize that, like, even ourselves, like, none of us are clearly perfect. None of us are on some sort of greater good of sorts, though there are, obviously arguable greater goods out there to fight for, but at the same time, like, I'm sure during our perceived battle that we're going to kind of cross the lines between, what we consider perfection. So I kind of hate that, like, that's why sometimes I kind of wish, like, movies and stuff would more often show the perspective of the bad guy or the perceived enemy per se, so that anybody, mainly kids, I guess, or really anybody who are more susceptible to, I don't know, media narratives and stuff, could realize that, like, both sides to anything really have a story, and to a certain extent deserve to be, I guess, empathized with, or at least understood. Jake, my cat's name, is Pradeep. And he's a black cat with 7 white hairs on his chest, which negates all of his bad luck. Am I right, guys? June 23rd, 2005 was a day that would prove to change my life forever. Despite it starting just like any other, by the time the sun would go down, I'd never be able to return to the carefree life I'd been living for the past 25 years. I know many of you dislike how other writers often choose to lay out some form of background in their stories, but I assure you, without knowing the events that led up to this disaster, I would only be giving you half the story. I promise I'll try to keep it brief with the facts and get to the reason why you're here as fast as possible. On or around April of 2005, I got a job as a mid-level hotel. At a mid-level hotel. You bet Joel has dreadlocks. Oh yeah, man. We jammin', bro. We smoke da ganja. On or around April of 2005, I got a job at a mid-level hotel off the highway. Even though I had no desire to be a housekeeper, most of my other options were out of the window because I had a felony on my record. Of course, I was told I could be a stripper, but that would have been my last option, and I wasn't there quite yet. If you may be wondering how exactly I caught my charge, you're going to have to wait for a minute when I feel like writing that story, but I promise you, it wasn't anything exciting. Anyway, I worked that job sometimes 7 days a week, and other than some amazingly disgusting things I found, it stayed relatively normal. That facade of normality would be destroyed on the morning of June 23rd. I had caught the bus into work like I had every day before, but this day a weird item in the paper made me uneasy and would prove somewhat prophetic. A headline stuck at the back page stated, "Violence towards hotel staff on the rise nationally." Whether it was aimed at me personally or not, it did manage to put me on edge. By the time it came to clock in, I tried to put it out of my mind and get to work, but unfortunately within the hour, one of the other girls mentioned it. I must not have been the only one bothered by the headline because the other girl standing next to us told her to shut up, and she did. This was thankfully the last time it was mentioned, but for me, the day would only get worse. Multiple times that morning, I happened to notice a guy hanging around the soda machines. The thing that made him stand out to me was his nervous body language. His eyes constantly scanned as if though he was looking for someone or something, but could never find it. Despite his clearly strange behavior, I wrote him off as just another nutcase, a mistake I now very much regret. I assumed that security had his eye on him, but it wasn't until later I was told that it was the guard's day off. I didn't have the luxury to watch the guy, so I continued to focus on my work. It wasn't until I came back from my lunch break that I noticed him again. Now he was standing much closer to where I was working, and I was trying to keep an eye on him and work at the same time, but I soon lost track of him. Another one of the girls had mentioned him creeping around her area earlier, but we had foolishly joked about it rather than take it the fuck. Petition for a new second channel called Let's Weed. Let's weed out the weaklings. Right, guys? Yeah, Let's Weed. Second channel, let's breed on Pornhub, and let's creep. I'll let you find that channel. It's on the deep web. We're at only 31 mistakes. That's not too bad. Another one of the girls had mentioned him creeping around her area earlier, but we had foolishly joked about it rather than take the threat seriously. Then, in the blink of an eye, he popped up behind me, and now he had a knife pointing in my back. I had just opened the door to a room and was about to enter it when he reappeared. All I remember from that moment was the feeling of the knife point poking through my uniform and the rotten smell of his breath. He was leaning closely against me and telling me to stay quiet and go in the room. At first, I couldn't make myself move, but a small poke urged my frozen legs forward. I didn't stop moving until I bumped into the first bed and I heard him tell me to lay down. That was when I had the That was when I had to face the fact of what he was going to do to me. Up till then, I could still pretend that wasn't why he was here, but now I had no other option. This was when I started crying. Quietly at first, but once the fear took over, I was bawling uncontrollably. I must have been making a lot of noise because he yelled at me through his gritted teeth to shut up. But when I saw the door start to close behind him, I began wailing even louder. Now he was even madder, and he rushed at me with the knife in an effort to shut me up. I noticed in his haste that he had left the door open just wide enough for me to see people passing through the parking lot. If I was going to get out of this, whoopsies. You'll read while weed and breed. Got a lot of options on this channel. You can tell why I'm so busy. Just no time to get to the ASMR channel. If I was going to get out of this, I knew I only had a few seconds before he'd reach me. That was when I screamed for help as loud as I possibly could, but he was on me before I could finish, his knife now pointing at my throat. I felt the fight go out of me and I just wanted it to be over. The silent tears continued to roll down my face as I stared at the ceiling, resigned to my fate. I could feel the weight of his body as he squirmed around trying to unzip his pants, but then all of a sudden the weight and movement stopped. I remember thinking at first, thank God, that was fast. But then I realized my skirt was still pulled down, and for some odd reason that made me chuckle. In an instant, like you see in the movies, the room filled with yelling and bustling. My eyes noticed a tall, burly guy in a jean jacket punching my attacker over and over. That's when I finally began to get my wits about me again. One of the girls ran into the room and grabbed me. She rushed me out while the two men continued fighting, my attacker still getting the worst of it. It wasn't long before the cops arrived and took control of the scene. My attacker couldn't put up much of a fight at that point. The other guy, who turned out to be a trucker, made sure he left on a stretcher. From what he told me, he'd heard my call for help when he was passing the open door. I'm not sure I could refer to it as my lucky day, but had he not decided to go that direction to his truck, I almost surely would have been... Oh, God damn it. I'm not sure if I could refer to it as my lucky day, but had he not decided to go that direction to his truck, it almost surely would have ended in disaster. The paramedics wanted to check me out, but I quickly assured them I was fine. When it came to physically fine, I was, but psychologically, I was not. After a year of constant nightmares, I was eventually forced to recognize that and spent any spare cent I had on therapy. A solid 5 years later, I was far from perfect, but at least the nightmares had gone away, and I didn't have a panic attack anytime someone stood behind me at the market. The trial set me back a little, but there was no way I wasn't going to be there. The worst part proved to be the testimony of the trucker. My attacker's lawyer was fairly optimistic that he wouldn't be able to show up to testify, but as he told me that day, he drove all the way across the country to do what was right, and his boss could screw off if he didn't like it. My turn to testify came, and he drove all the way across the country to do what was right. Oh, God damn it. He drove away. My God. He drove all the way across the country to do what was right, and his boss could fire him if he didn't like it. My turn to testify came, and I did as well as I could without completely losing it. I must have done a good job because after I told my story, his lawyer decided to take the plea deal he'd been offered. So, for the next 20 years, he'd be off the street and myself and other women would have one less scumbag to worry about. Sure, I would have been happier with a longer sentence, but I know how overloaded our prisons are, and every second I know where he is gives me a little bit of safety that I was lacking before. The experience made going back to work right away hard, so I decided to take some time off and go to school. I had no real goal or plan for school, but the student loans allowed me to... I'm struggling with English. It's only my first language. Bob Ross here right now? The spirit of Bob has overtaken me. And now for a happy little mistake. The experience made going back to work right away hard, so I decided to take some time off and go to school. I had no real goal for or plan for school, but the student loans allowed me time to deal with my problems without having to work 60 hours a week to keep my head above water. Somehow during the whole process, I ended up with a degree in counseling, and now I try to help other women with similar trauma deal with its lingering effects. Funny how life works out sometimes. If there's anyone reading this that happens to be wondering why today is the day I'm writing this, well, I just received a letter from the Department of Corrections letting me know that the man who attacked me almost 20 years ago is being released soon. Therefore, I guess this seemed to be the appropriate time to tell my story. Apparently, he had a good time, and he is thought to no longer be a danger to the public. For his own good, I hope they are right. I can assure you if he has any notion of coming after me, I'm not the naive and meek girl I once was. It's in his best interest that we never meet again. Oh boy. Get the Luigi board out, we're contacting the spirit of Bob. It's so hard not to just eat a lot of food. Am I right, guys? Like, sometimes I wish that, you know what needs to be government funded? I think we all would be pretty sweet, actually. I think gym memberships should be, there should just be a gym on every block, like a post office or a Navy recruiting center, but it's just a gym. And then trainers should be government workers, and we should all just be, we should be able to eat whatever we want, but at least we know that our government mandated workouts will force us to stay in shape. And then there would be no more models. We'd be done with models. We'd all be sexy AF. We'd all be bodybuilders. Instagram thoughts and bulky boys, I don't know what you call them on Instagram, would be a thing of the past because we all would be instant e-thoughts. I am kind of an e-thought. I've accepted it. I belong in Sparta. I never saw the 300. I never saw the 300 sequel. Was it good? $6:30 in Cali, baby. Let's read for president. I would be the first president to get rid of all the government. Cut out all the fat. It would never work out. The media would hate me. They would try to kill me. They would try to take my life. I would need you guys to back me up. Maybe even make a post on our subreddit saying how cool I am. Make signs. But I will break us free from this horrendous system. 300 sequel wasn't great. It was okay, but nothing new. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to come up with new ideas. I can't say, can't say that I've come up with many new ideas. I try to sometimes. I try to think of new things, new concepts, new stuff. Jake says Joel the anarchist. People always say that. You say less government, you think anarchy, but I really think the role of the government isn't to extort us for money as they've done with Mr. Rob Dyke and put him in quite a predicament. I think the role of the government is to, as you've heard in these stories, the woman fled from Mexico because their government could not protect them, you know what I mean? So I think protection is an important thing. Keeping people safe, teaching people how to keep themselves safe is important. I don't know. I think taxes are stupid. I really think they're stupid. I think they're dumb. I think because it's weird, like when you think about like our dollar, you know, or whatever currency you're using and stuff like that, you use your money every day to vote on what you feel deserves to continue to exist. So like when you guys donate to me, you're kind of in a certain way casting a vote. You're casting a vote that says I'm sending 5 votes in Let's Read's direction to continue to encourage his existence through our various resources. But why is that not... I mean, I guess it's kind of a hard concept to sort of create within government, but I just always think it's so weird, like, we get one choice or the other choice. You know, as South Park said, you get, like, the bag of douche or the turd sandwich, you know. Both of them, you know, and in Sunny in Philadelphia, I said both of them are screwing you in the ass. You know, you get taxes from this person, taxes from that, and, you know, you can't fight against that. That's written on law paper. You go to the... Oh God, I don't want to start a political conversation. That's the thing, guys, is I don't think politics should necessarily divide us. You know what I mean? I think we're both attempting to solve a similar problem, just by different means. I think we should be open to discussion. I don't think we should shut people out when they have different opinions. I certainly don't think we should talk down to people, because we all need to be educated in a respectful manner, and but we also, you know, if you can educate someone, you also need to be educated as well from their perspective. And I know a lot of times people get worked up about things, they feel emotional, but emotions don't accomplish anything. They really don't, especially when you're trying to make progress in some sort of piece of legislation that's going to govern the world, or at least your various nation or something like that. And I get frustrated when people get worked up to the point where they rely on insults to somehow be considered an argument of sorts. You know what I mean? That's what is going to be accomplished by that. Whatever idea that you have in your head is not somehow the seed that's going to be planted. Hi, kitty. What do you want? He's gonna roll off the bed. Oh my gosh. You're gonna roll off. He's purring very hard. He's so cute. But I don't know. If you guys have different opinions, I just think, and I'm always open to the discussion and talks and stuff like that, but the best advice I can say in all of life is just be open-minded to hear someone else's voice, because otherwise it's hypocritical. Anyways, we're moving on. Rachel says, best stance to have is nihilism. I don't know, maybe I don't fully understand nihilism completely, but nihilism tends to be relatively indifferent, and I think I've been there. I've been in that sense of that nihilistic perspective where everything is, relatively feels like it's relatively meaningless. But I also feel that life has a very deep poetic meaning, and if you can find that poetic meaning in life, and it gives you purpose, I think that's a much better direction to approach. Maybe, bringing about change. If you can have that poetic perspective on that vision that you want to see through, as long as that vision doesn't bring about harm on others, I think it's important to have that passion and that purpose. Logan Johnson with a 5 says, when life gives you lemons, make sure you throw them at random people for good luck and run away like hell. Keep up the good work. Let's read. Thank you, Logan. Does the pretzel come with cheese? A soft pretzel sounds really good. But yeah. I know, reading H.P. Lovecraft, if you've ever read H.P. Lovecraft, he definitely takes a very nihilistic stance on the world, because everything is just the sort of evolutionary perspective, and we're all just from the big pile of goop, and all of the greater gods of the past, Cthulhu and his minions of destruction, essentially came to Earth billions of years before humans even existed, and it's all very mystical and stuff like that. So you can tell, like, he still has a desire for, like, the mystical narrative. Don't you jump up there, kitty cat. He wants to jump on top of my computer, but you can't do that. But it I don't know. Nihilism is tough because sometimes it lends itself to a very deep-seated hatred that I don't think is very constructive to relationships with other people. Yeah, the ancient ones. Oh my god, he's running over there. He really wants to get on top of this beauty. I'm just gonna put him underneath here, underneath the desk. Doing? It's being really weird. Monster worship, thank you. I'm glad that I can help you through some hard times, and that's one thing that I hear from people that really makes me feel good, that I was able to make a difference, whatever difference that could potentially be. Oh my goodness, this cat, he will not relent. He wants on top of this computer. It's really weird, actually. I have a weighted blanket. I don't know if you guys ever used a weighted blanket before, but it's kind of nice. Kind of makes you feel nice and secure. And I always kind of hope that maybe I can wrap my kitty up in the weighted blanket like a burrito, and then he'll just relax. But he always squirms his way out. Gets back to his mischief. He's a slippery frog. My cat doesn't meow really ever. He only meows like when he's out in the living room, and I don't, you don't really know what he's meowing at or why he's meowing. And no, cat, no, no, no. It's weird because he really wants up there, and I don't know why. He's never done that before. He's never just like, because you can tell when a cat's like posturing to like jump on something. For some reason he's like really posturing hard to jump on top of the computer tower, but he's never had any desire to be there before. Cat's name is Pradeep. My family has been encouraging me for quite some time to share the story of a horrid incident I was unwilling... Oh, shit. Oh my goodness, now he's up on my keyboard desk. Alright. I will be right back. I'm gonna reposition the kitty outside of my room. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm not dead. Abby said wank and she's American? There's rules, Abby. There's rules in what we can say. Them's the rules. Monte Carlo, I am above you in my astral projection form. Do you see me? You see me. Close your eyes. Visualize me floating. Now that would be funny if I stepped away and somebody else came in. Its rain is gone. My family has been encouraging me for quite some time to share the story of a horrid incident I was unwillingly made a part of while running a cleaning service for the elderly. I ran the business from 1990 to 2001, and this specific occurrence served as a motivator to get my permit to carry a handgun. After what I'd seen, I knew I never wanted to be left in a position where I was unable to defend myself. Once I tell you the story, you will know why. I've been inspired to create my business after an especially bad interaction with another cleaning company. I had contacted them with the intent to contract them to come once a week and clean up my grandmother's home. She'd recently had a fall that resulted in her breaking her hip and left her unable to pick up after herself. Whoops. I had contacted them with the intent. A vengeful turkey. How do you know I'm not a skinwalker? That's yet to be seen. I have no way to prove it. Please don't start a 2-year special counsel investigation on whether or not Let's Read is a skinwalker. The taxpayers can't handle it. I had contacted them with the intent to contract, Jesus cripes. I had contacted them with the intent to contract them to come once a week. God, on my throat. Alright, I'm off to a bad start. A daywalker. Milo, is Milo here? What's poppin', Milo? What's happening, Milo? Welcome to the party. Okay. I had contacted them with the intent to contract them to come once a week and clean up my grandmother's home. She'd recently had a fall that resulted in her breaking her hip and left her unable to pick up after. Oh my god. She'd recently had a fall that resulted in her breaking her hip and left her unable to pick up after herself with any real efficiency. At that time, neither my mother nor myself could afford to pay exorbitant amounts that they were asking for. Therefore, with nothing really to lose, I quit my job and teamed up with my sister and mom to create a house cleaning company just for the elderly on low incomes. We were well aware that it would take a large number of clients to make it work, but it became obvious to us after doing a small amount of research that the demand for that type of service was high. So, after a visit to Costco and a few phone calls, we dove headfirst into our work. The first few weeks of business stayed somewhat slow. However, within the month, we had more business than we could handle. Over the next 2 years, we continued to grow, occasionally hiring more employees along the way, until we had reached the point that we could no longer... God damn it. My mouth gets either filled with saliva or some crap that just screws me up. Collab with Let's Breed. That would be an epic collab. Over the next 2 years, we continued to grow, occasionally hiring more employees along the way until we had reached the point that we could no longer... What the fuck? Over the next 2 years, we continued to grow, occasionally hiring more employees along the way until we had reached the point that we no longer had to do the cleaning ourselves and could completely focus on the administrative side of the business. My mom eventually decided to sell me her share, and it was up to my sister and I to manage a growing company on our own. We held on, but just barely, until we decided to sell the monster to a competitor for a more than fair amount in 2001. This story involves a horrible scene I happened to stumble into around Christmas of 1995. I had been working on the cleaning side of the company for nearly a year when I was forced to fill in for an ill employee. At that time, we had around 10 girls working for us, and they were busy at other locations when she got sick. Therefore, I had to pull out my uniform and get to scrubbing. The location I was filling in at was the home of one of our oldest clients, Ella May. Oh, fuck. One of our oldest clients, Ella May, okay. The location I was filling in at was the home of one of our oldest clients, Ella May, and I felt a certain amount of obligation to her to prove I could still provide her with great service, even though I'd not done any actual cleaning myself for quite some time. It was still important to me that I be capable of remembering why I started this company in the first place, and not fall into the trap of caring for nothing but the bottom line. Anyhow, I got to Ella's house around 10 that morning and knocked on the door. She didn't answer, but I had no reason to worry because she had given us a key to let ourselves in when she was out, and that's just what I did. I started my job in the kitchen, and since she rarely cooked food in there, It didn't take me long to finish and move on. Although it was technically part of my job, I would do a load of laundry for her back when I was her regular cleaner, and that's what I was preparing to do when I found her. After I emptied the hamper, I heaped down the hall to check her bedroom for any other clothes, and as I pushed on the door to go in, I saw that the doorknob was damaged, almost as if though the door had been kicked in. This caused me to pause for a moment. I knew Ella wouldn't allow anything in her home to go broken like this, so this anomaly instantly put me on guard. As I continued into the room, I noticed what looked like a foot sticking out from behind the bed, and as I drew closer, I realized I had found Ella's body. Stifling the urge to scream, I did my best to pull myself together. I crouched down to check her pulse, and this is when I first noticed that her hands were tied behind her back. This drastically changed the situation. It appeared that she had been assaulted, so I stopped myself before I touched her. The last thing I wanted to do was screw up the evidence. I don't know why this didn't come to my mind at first. I guess I just assumed people died in the nude from natural causes all the time. I mean, surely it has to happen relatively often. Regardless of how she died, I knew I had to call 911. The police arrived quickly with an ambulance soon after. They confirmed that she was dead and probably had been for a few hours. I sat and talked to the officers for an hour or two and told them everything I knew about her. God damn it, my voice cracked. Dude, I don't know why my voice cracks so much. Probably because it's not my natural voice. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Voice is cracking like a little boy. I hope... Wait, okay. Regardless of how she died, I knew I had to call 911. The police arrived quickly with an ambulance soon after. They confirmed that she had passed and probably had been like that for hours. I sat and talked to the officers for an hour or two and told them everything I knew about her and explained the way the scene appeared when I showed up. My hope was that at the time that... Fuck. My hope was that at the time that Ella had not been Fuck, dude. My hope was that at the time that Ella had not been violated, but the media managed to dash those hopes with their coverage leading up to the trial. The man, whose name I refuse to write here, was caught 7 months later and convicted at the trial. Even though he later tried to say he was railroaded, he had confessed multiple times to the police and his family that he was behind this, so I was pleased with the outcome. He did manage to dodge the death penalty, but he was still sentenced to life with no parole, pretty much assuring he'd never get out to hurt another decent person again. Like I said in the beginning, this tragedy convinced me to get a concealed handgun permit. I wasn't very familiar with firearms prior to making the decision, but once I decided, I did a bunch of... God damn it. I wasn't very familiar with firearms prior to making the decision, but once I decided, I did a bunch of research, including talking to a police officer friend of mine and taking a couple of Dude, I'm like, ugh. Oh, Spartan's here. Spartan, what's up, bro? God. I'm like so tongue-tied right now, Spartan. You're showing up at the worst possible time. Clark. See you later. Okay. Including talking to police officers. Okay. I wasn't very familiar with firearms prior to making the decision, but once I decided, I did a bunch of research, including talking to a police officer friend of mine and taking a couple of classes before I finally moved forward with the process. I'm not foolish enough to think I can save the world, but I do know there are monsters in the shape of human beings out there waiting to victimize women, no matter the age, and I won't become One of them. Spartan, you will not be given the guilty pleasure of me reaching 100 mistakes tonight. Because I'm on sicko mode, yo. I'm on sicko mode. I'm pulling the little hair that I have out of my head. Anna, I hope you have a nice 13-hour ride. Where are you heading to? Tennessee? Florida? California? Seattle? Minnesota? Texas? Yeah. I just think I've been using my voice too much. I am curious what makes a voice crack. I guess, I don't know, trying to hold. Yeah, I gotta use conditioner on my throat. Just gotta start drinking that lube right in my mouth. I gotta change the brand of butter. Can't believe it's not butthurt. What music do I like? I like a lot of music. I really like kind of like experimental electronic stuff. Not like techno, though I do like techno stuff, you know, if it's the right mood, but basically like the lo-fi chill hip-hop stuff, but maybe a little bit more like with a mix of like ambient in there. There's this one particular artist that I like called Secede, spelled exactly how you would think it's spelled, Secede. Now if you type that into Google, you're most likely going to see something about Texas or California, but there's a record label that they were part of called Sending Orbs, like the orbs that float around your room that you don't realize that are there, those things, and they're sending them. So Sending Orbs, and he has a bunch of cool like electronic artists on there that are part of that label. And one of my favorite all-time masterpieces of music that really got me into that type of music, the IDM, the intelligent dance music, I guess as they refer to it as, which sounds slightly pretentious, but whatever. It opened my mind to this one album called Tryshasla, spelled Tryshasla, Tryshasla, and basically it's just a masterpiece in the fact that it's like a man's, it's the dream of a dying man's last dream is how it's described, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Starts out a little creepy, but then it really becomes like this sort of organic being of itself. Like you just feel like you're in some sort of magical land. I used to listen to Explosions in the Sky back in the day. Yeah, I liked Explosions in the Sky. I mean, obviously they're like the rock instrumentals, kind of bass. I think they're definitely, their music lends themselves well to, I mean, I believe they wrote the score for Friday Night Lights and that kind of thing. So that was cool. But it's not always my tea of bag or bag of tea. Not always my tea bag. Am I into true crime? I'm not. I had some close friends that do, some close YouTube friends that do true crime stuff. I had never really been into the whole, stories of, unfolding. I tried to watch the Ted Bundy documentary. It was kind of interesting. I remember I read it actually in Discord one time with people in voice chat. Basically it just talked about Ted Bundy essentially being some sort of MK Ultra asset, where his murders were, he was sort of a fall guy for a larger sort of cult-like group that ritualistically would murder people. And whenever he would do interviews, sometimes it would almost be as if though he would become possessed, referring to himself in the third person, or as if though he was like multiple entities. And sometimes before he would kind of go into that sort of general trance-like state whenever he was discussing his murders, he would be relatively normal, like I guess essentially written off as a conventional, sane individual. And then when discussing his murders, they would say that there was some sort of like white protrusion from his lower half of his face that would like move. You could see it moving through his face on his like cheek, and kind of like slowly navigate its way up into his eye, as if though it was almost like some sort of parasitic worm or something like that. I don't even know. It was very, very strange hearing or reading about that. But then when that would occur, he would all of a sudden sort of change how he talked. I don't know. Thomas Fries, welcome back, Thomas. Thanks for being here with the $2. Says you should do a live stream marathon. Oh boy, my voice would be shot. That would be a tough one. How long would I have to stream for? And would it be for a particular thing? I don't know. You're a twink. That's a great name. Ravenclaw, Lizzie's here. Hi, Lizzie. Slytherin here. Alright, guys, this is our last story for the night. Let's make it a good one. Ellie McCartney. Is that how you pronounce it? It's been a long time since I shared a story with you all here, but I've been waiting for something scary or shocking to happen in my life. Well, boy, what happened just last week surely qualifies. As most of you know, I work for a power washing company. I may find myself cleaning algae buildup off of a sidewalk or black mold from the side of a building, so my job can be really diverse sometimes. When the events of this story happened, I was part of a crew power washing rush stains and dirt from the exterior walls of a large apartment complex. Although we rarely used them, the design of the complex required us to use scaffolding in order to reach certain areas of the facade. Since I have a major fear of heights, I made it clear from the start that I would not be one of the guys at the top. Most of the other guys in the crew didn't mind working on the scaffold, so there wasn't much pushback from the bosses. I volunteered to run the ground level washer, and that was what I was doing when the accident happened. Oh crap. Bennikin's Art with the $2 says, let's read, which Hogwarts house are you? Oh boy. Probably Slytherin. I just like evil people. I think they're a lot more interesting and less predictable. Believe me, every movie I watch, I'm cheering for the bad guy. Twink says my voice is actual butter. He's sobbing, or they're sobbing. Thank you. I'm glad I can make you cry. Spartan, I am not on steroids, though I wish I was, because it seems like it would make working out way, way easier. But I also don't want my heart to explode by the time I'm 40. So we will just avoid that mess altogether and just be all natural, baby. All natural. Joel is in me house. I volunteered to run the ground level washer, and that was what I was doing when the accident happened. We've been working at the complex for almost a week, and we're getting near the end. The part of our job that took the longest was the erecting of the scaffold. Most of us tried to get to the job a little early, so setting it up wouldn't eat into our cleaning time. Each time was set the behemoth. What? Each time? Oh. Each time we set the behemoth up, I couldn't shake the bad vibe I was getting from it. I used my fear of heights as a justification for my ill feelings towards it, but it may have had more to do with the way that the thing swayed and shook each time someone on it moved even an inch. God damn it, dude, I can't stop from squeaking. I'm like a little mouse. I'm like a little mousey. Gina Ashley, sorry, I thought there was an R there. Gina Ashley with the 20 bucks, his favorite channel ever. Thank you, Gina. That was very generous of you. I really appreciate that. That was the dopamine rush I needed to complete this story. I used my fear of heights as a justification for my ill feelings towards it, but it may have had to do more with the way the thing swayed and shook each time someone on it moved even an inch. Voicing my concerns most likely wouldn't have gotten me anywhere, so I kept my mouth shut. That last morning we set it up, it was windier than usual, but within an hour of us finishing, the wind had died down, so we were able to get to work without the fear of it blowing down around us. For most of the remainder of the day, work went smooth as usual, but once we returned from lunch, we were running on borrowed time. At least one of us was. When we got back to the complex, we began noticing that the wind was beginning to pick up again. Despite this, it didn't appear to be blowing the scaffold down, so we decided to get back to cleaning. We were almost finished anyway, and were looking forward to moving on to the next job. My partner climbed the scaffolding, and I got to work at the ground level. I was in my own world listening to Joe Rogan, but I could still faintly hear the scaffolding rattler every... That's pretty awesome that he's listening to Joe Rogan. We were just talking about Joe Rogan earlier in the stream, and now this guy's cleaning scaffolding and listening to DMT rants. You're here with a Let's Read experience. Oh yeah. Jamie, bring that up. Bring up that spooky story. I'm gonna read erotic SpongeBob. If they got it, if it's somewhere out there, we will find it. Rule 34. I was in my own world listening to Joe Rogan, but I could still faintly hear the scaffolding rattler every time he moved. Wait, oh, I think he added an extra R in there, that's why it said rattler. I was in my own world listening to Joe Rogan, but I could still faintly hear the scaffolding rattle every time he moved. This was the way it had been all week, so I paid it no mind. At some point, I turned my back to it, and about that time, a big, and I do mean big, gust of wind blew through the area we were working in and was quickly followed by a series of bangs. When I heard the first bang, it got my attention and caused me to look behind me just in time to see the second level collapse, taking my partner with it. Even though I wanted to help him, I knew I couldn't. So I backed up real fast just in case part of it got blown my way. It was a sickening thing to watch, and the whole time I couldn't help but feel guilty. To be honest, I still feel that way. I know it's irrational, but he's my friend and I just stood there. The second it all stopped, I ran over to him and began pulling parts of the structure off of him. He wasn't moving at first, but when I touched him to take his pulse, he started moaning. His first words to him... My first words to him were to stay still and not move. The possibility of him being paralyzed were with me. Were with me the moment... Oh. The possibility of him being paralyzed were with me the moment I realized he wasn't dead. My next move was to call 911, and they showed up in less than 5 minutes and rushed him off to the ER. The cops only held me for a few minutes in order to get a general idea of what had happened, and then let me go so I could meet my partner at the hospital. On the way, I called my supervisor and let him know we had... well, shit. Waka waka. Oh, Jesus. Oh. We might make it out of here with under 60 mistakes, you never know. Can I do it? Challenge run, let's go. Oh fuck, I don't even remember where I was. My next move was to call 911, and they showed up in less than 5 minutes and rushed him off to the ER. The cops only held me for a few minutes in order to get a general idea of what had happened, and then let me go so I could meet my partner at the hospital. On the way, I called my supervisor and let him know what had occurred. To his credit, his only concern was for my coworker's condition and nothing else. He made it to the hospital soon after I did and hung out with me while we waited for any news. About an hour after I got there, we finally got to see him. He and the doctors filled us in on his injuries, and besides a concussion and broken arm, the worst news was that he was unable to feel anything from the waist down. Although this was crushing news to hear, the doctors are optimistic that he'll get this ability to move. Although this was crushing news to hear, the doctors are optimistic that he'll get his ability to move back in a couple of weeks. Their feeling is that the paralysis is a result of spinal cord swelling and won't be permanent. Today makes it a week since the accident happened, and my partner is doing well. Unfortunately, he's still paralyzed. He does his best to appear unbeat, but I can tell he's bummed about it. All we can do is wait and hope for the best. That's about it so far. I ask that everyone reading this pray for him and his family. If anything changes, I'll post an update here. Thank you all, and stay safe. Mike. Jesus. That does suck. Justin Stonecipher with the 5 says, I'm back. How's it going? It's going well, Justin. I feel bad if you're just getting back. It's kind of the tail end of the stream here. Should do a derp button. Yeah, like dope. Well, guys, that was a little bit quicker than anticipated. But now comes the fun part, where all the birdies start chirping. Floyd, I love you. I love you so much. 58, not bad. Yeah, it was a little bit lesser stories than normal, so that sounds about right. Still relatively longer. But, we are going to check... Well, I'm going to read my outro, as you guys all know. But I need some feedback. I need to know what you guys want me to say as a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek wink and a nod to all those who hung out in the stream. It's usually right at the end I say, I'll say something like, thanks so much, friends, and I'll see you again soon. But perhaps there's something funnier we could say. Oops. So yeah, we got up to about 250 people here today. That's pretty solid. Just to plug my channel here some more. But yeah, guys, I do really appreciate everyone who's supported on Super Chat, donations. Really appreciate that, guys. Honestly, it keeps me going, keeps the channel supported. We're rolling along, keeps me wanting to stream with you guys, and honestly, just how positive you guys have been has really made me really happy to be here. I know some streamers kind of struggle with toxicity and that kind of thing, so I really appreciate you guys just make this such an awesome experience jumping on. Also, if you guys want to check out the stream later, obviously they're always going to be up on the stream's playlist, so if you know how to access playlists on the YouTube channel, be sure to head over to that, and it'll just be uploaded here briefly, probably take an hour or so to process or something like that, and then it'll be present in a sort of unlisted format, rather, is what I meant to say. But also, check out the podcast with Apple and Spotify, iTunes, Spotify. If you guys are already Patreons, thank you so much. But if you'd like to become patrons, you can find that in the link below. And for only $1 a month, you can get early access. So as soon as I'm done editing this audio, you guys can get this and download it for MP3 and for your personal comfort and pleasures. Also, if you have stories of your own, be sure to submit them to reddit.com or Let's Read Official. You can also submit some stories on our Discord, which leads me to joining our Discord. Maybe possibly one of the mods could link people to the Discord invite, where we all are going to have a super, super positive experience. No arguing or frustration. But no, everybody's super chill in there, so good times. I've been posting a little bit on Instagram of people who bought some merch and stuff. You can check that out as almost like a catalog if you'd like. But, I don't really, make... I have the profit margins on Spreadshirt set to like the lowest possible amount profit to like $1. Because really, if you guys are going to buy a shirt, honestly, that's like next level awesome. So I just really want you guys to be able to get that for the cheapest possible. But sometimes it can kind of get expensive with like shipping and all that kind of crap. But that's shop.spreadshirt.com/Let's Read. Got the Twitter handle and the Instagram handle up there. Hope you can follow. Thank you so much to Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse for always providing such awesome background creepy music. They are awesome, and also located in the description below. So we got some outro donations from Patrick Waters with the $5. Says, keep up the great work. Thank you, absolutely, Patrick. Thank you so much for the 5. I appreciate that. And our beautiful Venikin's art. You should go check out Venikin's art. I'm sure she's got some awesome pages to check out. She says, I'm here for Buttery Voice and Pradeep Kitte. Well, you've come to the right place. Coincidentally enough. But guys, let's do this outro. We come to a consensus on what we shall say as a tip of the hat. Time to put my books away, because let's read to... okay, I thought... We are the champions, friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. I'm going to say that, actually. That's perfect. Perfecto. Just for you, Spartan. Oh, it doesn't actually... Weird. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, our Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. All links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, we are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers. We are the champions. Boom shakalaka. I guess I didn't need to give you guys that long, like, that long, like, social media spiel whenever I just do it anyways in my outro read and stuff like that. But also, I noticed that nobody is having as much issues with, like, connections and that kind of thing, which makes me happy that my buddy was able to help me figure that out. But buenas noches. Adios. Thank you guys for being here. Truly, truly are awesome people to interact with, and I really appreciate you guys just keeping everything positive. I love you. I will be perusing the Discord from time to time, and you know where to find me. Also, this video will be out tomorrow around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. We'll be promoting that all over the social media quite soon, quite soon. But love you guys, and thank you again. Trying to do these streams more often, usually the day before videos come out. So Sunday for Monday's video, Tuesday for Wednesday's video, and Thursday for Friday's video. So we got a packed schedule. But it's been fun and it's been awesome. So thank you again, guys, and I'll see you again soon. We are the champions, my friend.